On this episode of Long Riders Radio, we're going to talk with Kerri Miller, who's the winner of quite possibly the greatest rally ever, the West Coast 66. Coming up! Support for Long Riders Radio comes from DiscountRamps.com. DiscountRamps.com offers a huge selection of power sports products for your ATV, UTV, motorcycle, and more. Everything you need to load, haul, or transport your power sports toys. Long Riders Radio listeners can save 15% off their order by using coupon code LONG. That's LONG at DiscountRamps.com. Well, hey there, everyone. Justin here. Hope you're doing well. It's been a busy couple of months here at Long Riders Radio World Headquarters. And first off, we put on our own rally, first time ever. And Tim Allen and I put on that rally, called it the West Coast 66. And Kerri Miller, who we're going to talk to here in a moment, won it. And she had quite a ride, and we'll hear all about it here. We are in the process, actually, of seeing if we can make this work for a more traditional type rally for next year. So more to come on that as we get some stuff nailed down. We're working with hotels right now to see if we can make this happen for a reasonable price. So yeah, more to come on that. In other news, I competed in the North by Northwest rally that Gary Huff put on. As always, Gary does an amazing job, and he is moving that rally to Colorado Springs next year. So if that's more in your area, I would highly recommend signing up for his rally when he puts it out there. But had a great time. Did fairly well. Got my first podium finish of ever in a rally, so that was kind of cool. I finished fourth more times than I'd care to admit. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Had a wonderful time and got to visit some really cool places, including Death Valley, where I've never been to. So with that, let's get into it with Kerri, and I'll see you on the flip side. Well, on the line today, we have the winner of the West Coast 66 rally, perhaps the greatest rally ever devised in the history of motorcycling. Yeah, well, maybe we'll get into that a little bit, but like I said, the winner of the West Coast 66 rally, Kerri Miller. Welcome to Long Riders Radio.
Hey, Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Kerri Miller. I live in the Pacific Northwest up in Seattle. I lived up here about 20 years, just long enough to be able to give directions based on things that have been torn down. But I'm originally from New England. I've always lived in the northern tier of the United States, southern Canada. And yeah, I'm up here. I work in software, and I like to ride motorcycles. Nice.
Now I have to give you permission to you talk all the smack about the West Coast 66 rally you want. Pretend like the guy who put on the rally isn't the one talking to you right now. So feel free if you have gripes and grudges to bring them out. But I guess the first question I've got for you is, okay, so I had a lot of fun putting together that bonus book. I don't know if you could tell, but Tim Allen and I put that together and had a lot of fun. And we, at one point, decided, you know what, we should hide something in here. A la Ready Player One, if anyone knows that. And so we made an Easter egg and put it in there. And we put the over-under of riders finding it at 0.5, and we both took the under, that like no one's going to find this thing. Kerri found it on the first freaking day. How did you find it?
Well, I noticed you had the Easter egg bonus listed in the bonus listing spreadsheet that you sent on. Mm-hmm. And
which was a mistake, by the way.
I might not have found it. Otherwise. So I emailed you saying like, hey, what's this bonus? And you said, oh, you found the Easter egg bonus. You were really excited, but I hadn't actually found it yet. Yeah. And then I remembered what you said, that every bonus was somehow listed in the book.
Yep.
And so I went through a whole bunch of like, well, maybe you're doing, like one of those like computer hacker elite speak where you place the E's with 3s or something like that, or there's some sort of, encoding. Couldn't find it. And then I started thinking about a letter that excuse me, not a letter, I believe it was a term paper that somebody had written, where the first word of every line was the next word from a Rick Astley song.
Okay, yeah.
Never going to give you up. And so I was like, well, maybe like the first word on every page or something like that, or I could read down the edge like letters or something. And then I noticed there was a tiny speck on my screen, a very, very tiny speck. At first I thought it was just like a piece of dirt. And of course I zoom in, and it was like the absolute smallest letter imaginable. And I immediately said, I think I know where this is going.
So the one thing you did do is you posted it right away, which meant that everyone else in the rally is like, what is this? What's going on? And so then I had to like explain. Okay, so I had to start giving hints to people, because there were certain people who were very upset they could not find they're getting very upset with themselves, not with me, that they could not find this. I'm like, okay, you gotta look. It's in there. Look. I think I said I had 3 clues that I gave them, like start out small, start out on the first page, start looking where you wouldn't normally look, and then people got it from that basically. But yeah, so anyway, it was 1,000 points. It wasn't a ton of points in the overall scheme of the rally, but congratulations on being the first to find it. And
well, thank you.
You got the little avatar next to your name for the entire with the Easter egg next to it.
So many people asked me, because I did have a few friends who were kind of following the website along, because you were doing a live scoring, which they loved, by the way. I'd love to see more rallies, attempt something like that if it's possible. But they all saw the egg and they were like, whoa, what's that about? Like, what's going on? So I got to explain like the whole backstory there. But no, I wasn't sure if I wanted to post it right away because I didn't want to lose points in case it was invalid after the start or something. But I also didn't want to like tip my hand too much. And I figured like, well, it'll get in some people's heads. So
yeah, exactly. It did. No worries there. So,
but again, I mean, like in the grand scheme of when the finishing values were 250,000 plus points, right? Like 1,000 points
it wasn't a ton. Yeah,
it's not bad.
But you didn't know that at that point, I guess. So,
No.
So okay, so I don't have to do the humble brag here. Why don't you talk a little bit about how that rally was set up? And you mentioned already we did the live scoring, but talk a little bit about how the rally kind of went along.
Sure. So a little bit different than other rallies in that it had actually 4 possible locations that we could start from. Olympia, Washington, essentially. And Duarte, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, and then Sacramento and Eugene, Oregon.
Yep.
And we had 2 checkpoints. You had to go to Olympia and you had to go to Duarte, Los Angeles. But other than that, the 66 hours are yours to use as you wanted to.
And the reason why we did that was so that we could have disparate starting locations and make sure that everyone ran the same number of miles. There wasn't an advantage to start at one versus the other. You were going to go to those 2 endpoints no matter what. So
correct. Yep.
So we gave the bonus listing out a week, 4 days before the rally, the Sunday night before a Thursday morning start. So you had 3 days essentially to put your route together. Yep. So how did you go about coming up with your route? Because there was a fair number of bonuses in that book.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, the first thing I did was I took out all of the jokes. What I did was actually label them with the skull and crossbones. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to Prudhoe. Yeah, Key West, no.
They were worth the whole point. Come on.
Somebody would have attempted it if you had actually made it a point.
Somebody would have, yes.
Somebody would have. Well, Justin, can I ship my bike up to Anchorage and race north?
Yeah.
No, but I started in Olympia, the northernmost checkpoint, and I knew I had to get down to California, and that I have done I-5, Justin, like so many times. Yep. I've been up and down like that road. I hate it. And I didn't want to go down and go back up, but I realized that the way the bonuses were laid out, there really only seemed to be 3 basic routes. There was a coastal route that we could take down 101, which again, I've done a ton of time and I love that ride, but man, it's slow. Yeah. And there's that huge construction area south of Crescent City that a lot of folks ran into this summer. there was the I-5 corridor, and then there was the a couple routes out to the east.
Yeah.
And if you just went due south to Los Angeles and cleaned everything out along the way, then you're basically deadheading it all the way back, right? Like 16 hours back from LA, not scoring any points. And so that led me to look at the other possibilities and the other combinations, whether do I want to go spend some time on the coast, or do I want to go bake in Nevada?
So maybe this will actually be interesting to some people to have like what my thoughts were going into it was I wanted basically two things to be true about this rally. I wanted there to be so many things that you could, no matter if you didn't want to like be real competitive, you could find an area you wanted to go and you could go ride there. And there was enough in that area that would keep you busy for the entire time. And I also wanted there to be a lot of things that you had to kind of noise you had to go through, which is why there were some of those jokes. Like there was a route that went to Key West. It wasn't worth very many points, but it was something you had to deal with.
It was there.
Yeah.
You could do it.
Exactly. And I put some things in there that would have been like, you could do this one thing and that's all you're going to do. Like I put a pizza place that Mike Best liked, and because there was just enough time that if you started I think you had to start at one of the checkpoints to do this, but you could get out there and finish at the other checkpoint. And then I also put, after some finagling by participants, I gave the ability to finish at a different start-finish location, and I called it the ripcord. So if you got into a bad situation and you needed to finish at one of the other checkpoints, you wouldn't DNF the rally. You lost a lot of points doing it, but so it probably wasn't a great strategy move, but it might have been for some people. And so there were a lot of different places you could go. And so you picked, I thought going out to the coast would have probably been worth it, but you obviously did not think that and did a whole separate route. So why don't you talk about your route a little bit?
Well, starting in the north end, I knew that there was a cluster of bonuses around Silicon Valley that were very high. Individually, I think they were like 50 points
50
each.
Points,
One was like 1 point. I think it was Facebook. Stupid Facebook.
Stupid Facebook.
And I saw that, like, not only that, that was a really big combo bonus I figured everyone would be getting, but that that gave you 2 of 3 locations that you also needed for another bonus called the Axis of Evil bonus, which was also similarly very high scoring, but you had to go into downtown Seattle and pick up Amazon. And I've always been really, every time I've done rallies up here in the Northwest, and I see bonuses in and around Seattle, I pay a lot of attention because I feel like I've got like some insider knowledge on like shortcuts and things that that Waze or GPS aren't going to pick up. For example, like we have some major bridges that aren't closed, but my GPS still tries to send me over the West Seattle Bridge, even though it's an hour detour otherwise. So I kind of built it around that. And then I thought about the coast just because I love that ride so much. It's such a great ride. But it ultimately just wasn't the ride that I wanted to do. Like I really wanted to do a lot more, not higher speed necessarily, but like longer distance. And I really wanted to push myself personally on that level. And I knew I was only going to be able to do that if I was out in Central Oregon, Nevada, where I could really make some miles and spend a lot of time on the bike. Yeah.
So you went pretty much. Well, so incidentally, on the Silicon Valley one, I didn't think anyone was going to do that because I thought everyone's going to, and everyone did it. But I figured it like, okay, this is not enough points to deal with the traffic that's going to be in that area. But everyone timed it just perfectly. So there was very little, I don't think anyone had real bad traffic going through there. But just one of those weird things for when you're putting stuff out there and then what people actually do was hilarious. They're like, okay, everyone went to this and we didn't think anyone would. So, but go ahead.
My original plan had actually been to go down there, go there first. And so it was hang out in Seattle for an hour to pick up everything in Seattle, and then head south, down the coast, Silicon Valley, turn left in LA to head out to Vegas, and then back north up through Nevada, and Oregon.
And you did the exact opposite of that.
I ended up doing exactly. I did the exact opposite because what happened was I realized that time-wise, it was going to put me into San Francisco at like a horrible time of day.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of riding in the Bay Area. I know what those traffic patterns are. It was going to put me into LA at a horrible time. It's just like the timing just was horrible for everywhere I was going to be.
Yeah.
But I realized, of course, try inverting it. And the timing just laid out absolutely perfectly. So I could hit Death Valley at 5 a.m. I hit LA middle of the day. And then I got into Silicon Valley, at like 7 p.m. on a Friday night. There was empty. There was no traffic at all in the Bay Area.
So it seemed to me that your first day was all about setting up that Death Valley bonus first thing. On the second day, because I was like, where is she going? And going down through Central Oregon, like there's nothing out there. Like, what are you doing? And like, okay, now I see what you do. And actually, there were 2 bonuses that were available in Death Valley. They were the same thing. You want to talk about what that was?
Oh, this was genius. And this is actually I loved it. And I spent a long time watching the Weather Channel because there were 2 bonuses. One was, I believe the Death Valley bonus was, 3,500 something points.
Yeah.
If the temperature was under 111.
Yep.
If it was over 111, it was like, what, like 10,000, 11,000 points. Huge, like far and away, like one of the biggest bonuses. And so I was watching that weather to sort of see, like, is it going to get up there? Is it actually going to? Because the week before, it had been really super hot down there.
Yep. And it never did during the rally, which I was really disappointed. But there was also
sadly no.
Yeah, there was also the possibility that you could get both of them if you were willing to stay there. You could theoretically time it right, so as the temperature's going up or down, you get both of them at the same time. But
that actually got into my thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
You'll notice that I hit it right at dawn. It was like 5:30 a.m. and then went over to Las Vegas, and I knew that if the weather was wrong, I'd be able to watch on the trip down to Vegas and then coming back over until you get to about, is it Baker, I guess?
Yeah.
And I could watch the weather and sort of see if it was going to creep back up because, if it was going to go up, that would have been a fine detour to take.
Yeah. Well, I'll have you know, on the North by Northwest rally, I went through Death Valley and I made it a point to stop at Furnace Creek because I'm like, I'm not going to tell these people that I'm not going to go to the place I tried to send them because it was really hot when I went through there, and it was 116 degrees when I went through.
Oh, God.
And it was so hot, my phone was overheating and it wouldn't take the picture, and which actually worked out really well because if I hadn't done that, my phone would have continued to overheat and it wouldn't have been available at the next bonus, like actual bonus for that rally. And so it was very fortuitous that I went there and noticed that it was overheating and was able to move it around so that it didn't continue to overheat. So
nice.
And battery explode and horrible other things. But so anyway, but by doing that early in the morning, you also got one of the other. So this was in a category called annoying and mean, which
so annoying.
I looked at it this way.
This is absolutely hands down the most annoying bonus I've ever been to.
Yes. Yeah. And so both Death Valley and this next one in Las Vegas. So I was trying to think of like, okay, what are all those things that rally masters do that they just kind of sneak in the bonus listing, and like, oh, by the way, there's a 4-mile hike when you get here. And so with this one, you had to take a picture of the sign in the front of Margaritaville on the Las Vegas Strip. But there's a couple of caveats to it. So why don't you talk about that?
Yes, the caveats were that you had to be on the sidewalk, and if you which should tip a lot of people off right there, the fact that you're specifying that, like, you couldn't safely stop on the Strip and take it unless there's like a traffic jam or something. But there's no place to really park on the Strip itself. You have to park off the Strip, and it's only one Las Vegas block away. Well, if you've ever walked around Vegas, a Las Vegas block is like easily a third of a mile. They're just ridiculous. So I ended up having to park at the Flamingo, I think. In there, I actually parked in their employee parking lot. I didn't know it at the time. There's just a bunch of motorcycles. I'm like, I'll just sneak in here. And then if you act like you belong,
exactly,
leave you alone. And so I had to hike through the Flamingo Hotel, and then the casino, and then the shopping area. and then to take the pictures of the sign. And there's a bunch of panhandlers there who I don't really know what they were yelling at me. I just did the friendly like point at my headset because I was still wearing my helmet the whole time.
Yeah. That's awesome.
People left me alone.
Yeah. So there was one of my other things that I thought was hilarious that I did is so one of the other themes in this rally was to send you to different football themed locations. And so in Las Vegas, instead of sending you to the new stadium for the Raiders, I sent you to the Clark County Correctional Facility and said it was the recruiting station for the Las Vegas Raiders. But which I think you got after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know football. And so I just show up and I'm like, wait, this is a prison. And I'm like checking it. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right, well, do the photo. And I was all about to call you and like confirm it. And then I'm like, oh, now I get the joke.
There may have been some opinions expressed about certain football teams and my particular take on certain football teams in that bonus book. So apologies to Raiders, Rams, 49ers, and let's see who else. The Broncos fans. So,
Justin, if they're fans of the Raiders, they've got other problems.
Well, that's true. Yeah. So from there, you pretty much went down to Duarte, and I mean just straight down to Duarte, got that checkpoint, and then went back up to the Bay Area. And this was about inside baseball. At this point, I didn't think you were going to win. I just like my money was on a couple of other people. Like, okay, these people I can see what they're doing, and I couldn't really visualize your route yet. And as soon as you went back up to the Bay Area, I'm like, if she does that, she's gonna finish with enough time to do that, and that. Oh, she's gonna win it. And I had this whole spread because I mean, okay, I thought I was gonna be really busy, like. Okay, it's like one bonus comes in every 10 minutes, so you've got plenty of time to think. And so I've got this whole spreadsheet laid out, and I'm texting with Tim, like, if Kerri does this, and Jeff does this, and so, yeah. But it was about that point that you, that was like, she's got a good chance. And because you were like in fourth at that point. I mean, you were ways out of the lead at that point, and because some other people had done some very high point stuff before that. And so anyway, so why don't you talk about what you did in the Bay Area?
Well, I first I'll just address that, which was I kind of knew that like I was going to be I was very weighted towards, it was very points heavy on that last day. Mm-hmm. Like that's where I was going to be like closing up a lot of these combos and everything. But no, I got down to Tonopah and I stayed at the Clown Motel, which by the way,
oh, that's right.
Thank you for including that. Like I had wanted to go, I love traveling. I mean, like that's kind of a prerequisite in a lot of ways for the sport, but you know, Clown Motel has been on my list of places to go and stay for years. So that was awesome. That was
in our out of the way category, which was basically the catch-all for stuff that wasn't near anything else. So there was a lot of things in there. So.
But no, I made the mistake of actually looking at the live point totals. And even though I knew that I was going to be really low on points that first day, like I still like was like tossing and turning a little bit like, oh man, this isn't good. This isn't good. But no, so yeah, I timed it such that, I hoped anyway that I would be getting out of LA before rush hour, which of course doesn't actually really happen. Yeah. But luckily, lane splitting is a thing, and I have no problem lane splitting on the GSA.
Nice.
Although I'm still a little hesitant about lane splitting, but somebody on a Ducati, like of course, zipped right by me, and I'm like, well, fine, you know, there's a local, I'll do it, right? Yeah. So I let him kind of like part the water, so to speak. And at a certain point, I'm like, okay, traffic's starting to creep along a little bit. There's a hole. I've had enough of this, right? And so I pulled over. And that's when I realized that right behind me was a chip officer. Oh. Also lane splitting. And as he went by, like he leaned over and gave me a big like that. And I'm like, yes, it made my day. Well,
GSA is not exactly the most narrow motorcycle with those boxes on it either. So
right, exactly. No, yeah. So I got up through the valley, which is just the most annoying. I can't even. Yeah. After a stop in Sacramento, which apparently is Mike Best's favorite town, I hear.
Okay, so I have to tell that story. So on the podcast, on the episode I think 99 with Mike Best. And it might have been in something I cut. He was going on and on about how he couldn't stand El Paso, Texas, and he couldn't and then at some other point it was on the Iron Butt Rally in 2019. He was talking about how he couldn't stand Bakersfield. He had to go there and he hates Bakersfield. And so I put Bakersfield and El Paso as bonuses and then made it the Mike Best combo. And it wasn't worth a ton of points, but anyway, that's the story behind that.
Yeah. So Bakersfield, which my GPS has no knowledge of apparently.
Apparently has a lot of one-way streets.
And some that are turned into bus stations now, like just randomly, like road closed, but it's a bus depot staging area. Whatever. I got out of there. I survived Bakersfield. So I got up to the valley right the hottest part of the day and cut over through Gilroy up into the Bay Area. Hit it right around 6:30, 7 o'clock. So, I was going into the city against traffic, which was fine. Just went in and swooped up all of the, I think there were 8 bonuses, Silicon Valley bonuses.
Yeah, it was 7 or 8. Yeah.
Don't make me try to remember which ones they are because one of them was not there.
Yes. And that was not intentional. So in the bonus, it was for Yahoo. And so what all these bonuses in the Silicon Valley were tech companies. And so you were going around to different tech companies. And I made a joke in the bonus book about take a picture of the Yahoo sign if it's still there. Ha, ha, ha. And I mean, we did not obviously go verify. We had 180 bonuses or something like that. We did not go verify each one. Sorry. Yeah. But we did verify them on Google Earth and looked at the date of the picture and try to make sure that this is likely going to be there still. And that one was there in July of 2021. It was there on Google Maps, and I think the whites were the first one to go there. Like, there ain't no sign here. I'm like, oh crap, and that ended up being an issue for at least one rider, which I felt really bad about. But so Yahoo is no more in the Bay Area.
I think it's about the time I was starting to get a little punchy, and so I was being a little comedic in my post too.
That's what you're talking about when you went to HP and your laptop got stolen or something, and they didn't take the HP laptop.
That's actually an interesting story itself. Not the laptop being stolen or not being stolen, although that's kind of funny. I park at HP and I hop off the bike and I rig up the rally flag and I take the photo and I'm like, I'm going to be funny. I've got a funny story to tell. This will be entertaining. And so I type in the story and take off down the road. Go down to Google, 20 minutes, about 10, 15 minutes away. Where's my flag? So that is, I'm 2 for 2 this year at that point of losing my flag.
I was going to say, because you had an issue with this last rally too, didn't you?
Well, with this rally, that would make me 3 for 3. I have lost my flag at every rally I've run this year.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. But
No, I laugh at myself at this point. I have some pretty strong ADHD, and so if I don't follow my checklist at every stop of do this, if I don't follow that process, then I have to stop and start again.
You didn't lose your rally flag. You temporarily misplaced your rally flag because you found it every time.
It took a field trip.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I rode back. In a panic, and I was doing the math on okay, what do I do?
And losing your rally flag was not a big deal in this rally. I mean, it was 1,000 points.
I still would have won. But no, I ran right back, and there it was, of course, lying in the middle of the street. But it's that spike of adrenaline, just it's not great. It just crashes you out. So
you need some kind of bungee cord that you can keep it attached to you at all times and sit back and.
I've come up with some I've spent some time, especially on this last rally, coming up with some very interesting machinations to attach it to me or have little flags or signals or lights or something that tell me the flag is not put away.
I almost lost mine on North by Northwest. I was very lucky that I didn't, put it that way, because I have on the back of my bike I have a little piece of ABS piping that I saw that that's the Rally Flag Holder 5000. Which works wonderfully as long as you put the little twisty cap on it at the end. And so the flag went in. I got distracted by something. The little twisty cap didn't go on. And I rode out of the bonus location, luckily went and got gas. and noticed, and as I'm walking around the bike, like, why can I see my rally flag? Oh crap. And so I was able to get it out of there, stick it in one of the side bags and go. But it was, that I was very lucky I didn't lose it.
Nice.
So, and that it would have been a big deal in that rally.
Well, I think that what my plan right now is I've got some little tiny bags that kind of like tuck up inside the fairing in the cockpit on the GSA, and I'm going to sew a piece of like super neon orange pink something fabric inside, like a lanyard that I'm going to hook the flag to, right? And so you've got this piece of
that's sticking
super
out,
fluorescent plastic in your face.
Yep.
So you get back on the bike and it's not tucked away, then the flag isn't in there. So
my wife bought me a selfie stick, and I think she thought I was going to use it for the camera, but I ended up using to put the flag on. And so,
nice.
Assuming I get the little twisty cap on, the flag never comes out of my hand. Like I never put it down, except in very rare circumstances, which is probably when I'll lose it. But it's an easy thing to do. You just get distracted by, okay, I'm writing down numbers or sending the email or whatever, and next thing you know. And
I threw in like, oh, I'm gonna be funny because I'm such a funny person, like my comedian habit had to come back and bite me on that one. But no, I didn't lose it. I didn't lose the points. The only thing was it kind of pushed me back a few minutes. I knew I was skating really close to the daytime. These were all 24-hour bonuses, I believe.
Everything in the rally was a 24-hour bonus. It's just that what I said was everything in the rally is 24-hour bonus, but you're responsible for lighting it. So if the thing you're supposed to be taking a picture of is a mountain, best of luck. We got to be able to see the mountain. So
right.
That
so there's a little personal judgment there.
Yeah.
But I didn't even think about it. I got to Oracle, which was the 8th of the 8 bonuses, and it was after dark. The sun had definitely set at this point. And we had to take a picture of the boat that they won the America Cup in.
Yep.
America's Cup. I don't remember the name of the boat.
I think it's BMW Oracle. I mean, I don't think there's actually a name for it. It's USA 17 or something.
It's really cool looking. It's just floating in the middle of like a decorative mill pond at this point. It's not even floating. It's kind of like canted up on one hole. But they're not lighting it at night. Nope. And I don't even know why I thought that they would. And so I got out, I walked out into there's like a little dock you can walk out on. And I kind of was there on the other side of the building. Security's checking me out. And I'm like, well, if there's a paved path that kind of comes around the building, I could like ride the bike down here, to get the headlights on it, take the picture. Because like, what would happen, right? They'd come out and yell at me and say, hey, you can't park here. And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Let me move.
I'm just a dumb motorcyclist. I'm doing a rally.
I'm a blonde lady. I mean, like they let me through. But I decided to take a picture real quick, and my goodness, my iPhone does amazing nighttime photography, so that worked out just fine.
That actually right there is one of the reasons why I didn't have it be anything daylight only, because especially with iPhones nowadays, I mean, you can be in darkness and it will take a picture and the sky will look light, and so it's like, I'm not gonna make it like, I'll give you the picture if you can take a picture of it, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, that's daylight, that's not daylight, when it's, I mean, really, you can't tell.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that speaks to the time-honored advice of like, practice everything ahead of time, and practice taking photos like of things at different distances at different times of day, so you know like what your camera is going to do.
And
so
how you can
second guessing,
how you can get the front lit and keep the back that's really dark lit too, and not overexpose either one. Yep. So you did claim the Silicon Valley bonus, and then you started heading north, and I think you stayed the night somewhere north of the Bay Area that night, didn't you?
So I took, I believe it's 580, stayed about an hour and a half north of San Francisco, Oakland, and in a wonderful motel that I'm never ever going to go back to except emergencies. But it was fine, that's all I'm going to say about it. And of course, got my start start, rest, receipt, got that submitted, slept for 5.5 hours. I realized very quickly that the optimal time was 6 hours for your rest bonuses.
It was kind of a logarithmic curve of points.
Yeah, I mean, you could do 7 and 8 hours, but like
you could do
the
10.
reward for it wasn't. Yeah, like but the reward wasn't there for points.
You're gonna get an extra 100 points for that extra hour of sleep. So if you need it, take it.
Yeah, if you need it, God bless. Like take it. Like be safe. But,
exactly.
I didn't, so I maximized my points.
Yeah.
Except my stop rest receipt was 40 seconds too early for claiming that 6 hour bonus, and I noticed it like right after I sent it in. And I'm like, oh. So I immediately like put 4 cents of gas and squeaked a couple drops in and resubmitted. So
what I've done that same thing, and what I'm always worried about is that's going to be the thing that causes the card to get flagged for fraud. That it's why did you get gas and then get gas right away again? Like crap.
I started doing just unimaginably wild, like long trips, or unimaginable to my bank anyway. This kind of writing about 4 years ago, and my bank has given up. Like they're just like, whatever. There's no fraud alert on my card ever. But the first year it was like every other week was like, got to get a new card, and it was rough. But,
I actually called my credit card company before an Iron Butt rally, and this like, okay. I see the little, and they're like, oh, we've got a thing on our website. Just tell us where, like, you could only put 4 states in there. Like, well, how many you're going to go to? Potentially 48. And she's like, oh, okay. Yep. Well, put the corners in. So it's like, put Washington, Maine, California, and Florida. And like, okay.
Nice.
I think actually I did Alaska, Maine, California.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case. But, yeah. So anyways, so that next morning, you basically hauled ass up to Seattle again. Went right by where you're supposed to finish.
Yep. There were absolutely no bonuses on the in Oregon along I-5
because there was a start finish location along I-5 in Oregon.
I was tempted to stop, take a photo there just for fun, but like at that point I'm just like I just want to go home. So I went past Olympia into Seattle and I got into Seattle around
like 4 or something. I think
it was like 3:30.
Yeah.
No, it was 3:25.
Okay.
When I parked my bike in downtown Seattle, 3 blocks from the stadium on a game day.
That was not intentional, by the way.
No, but it was a nice little wrinkle, like because up to this point, like I got into Vegas at like 8 a.m. So I got a little rush hour, but no real traffic. I got through LA at like lunchtime. There's no traffic in the Bay Area. So it was really the first traffic after 2 days of like hauling around the deserts. Like it was the first traffic I got to deal with, and it was on my home turf. So it was like perfect, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Except the only place I could park, because everything was filled with all the game folks. The only place to park, I found one parking garage down by the waterfront because I wanted to score a waterfront bonus. Was a little bougie, private parking garage, and they had a speed bump, a very dramatic speed bump between the ticket machine and the gate. And so of course I had to like put everything in neutral, get the ticket, jam it in my teeth, get it back in gear, then get over the bump. And at that point, right as I get over the speed bump, that's when the gate starts dropping. And
it was an actual gate, not like a...
Oh, no, it was a solid gate.
Yeah.
It was not like a bar. It was like a wall of sheet metal coming at my face. It clipped the front of my, the top of my windscreen and starts going back up. And I kind of limbo back out of the way to kind of duck under it. I don't successfully do that, so I whack my head on the thing and then like chunk, stall out the bike, drop it into a concrete pillar. And I'm just sort of standing there. But because it was game day, a herd of 5 or 6 lubricated young men immediately hopped to my aid.
So you didn't even have to lift the bike up yourself?
Nope.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not one bit.
Now, you said in your ride report something to the effect of they were pretty sure you had a concussion or something.
Because I'm just standing there like, what the heck? Like, what happened? What just happened to me in the last like 3 seconds? But they got the bike tipped back up, and I wasn't too embarrassed. So I was down at the waterfront though to catch the Blake Island ferry, because you would put an extremely high value bonus on an island where we had to hop a passenger ferry to go to.
There were a number of islands on this rally. Catalina Island was one of them. These are all in the annoying and mean category, and which actually, by the way, you got 3 of the 6 claimed annoying and mean bonuses. I don't know if you knew that.
Really?
There were only 6 claimed, and you got 3 of them. But yeah, Blake Island is a little island out in the middle of Puget Sound, not accessible by land in any way, and so. But it really wasn't that bad to get out there.
It really wasn't. I mean, when you think about it, it's a passenger ferry, so you have to catch the ferry. Excuse me. It's a 27-minute ride out. The ferry sits there for 3 minutes or loads its passengers, and then it turns around and heads back. But the bonus was like at the end of the dock.
Yeah.
And you had to get off the ferry and walk to the end of the dock through the gate anyway to like scan your return ticket. So if you were willing to pay the I think $30 for the ticket, it was basically free bonus.
Yeah, it just took you an hour.
It took about an hour. Yeah.
But you could also sleep on that,
which is what I did.
Yeah.
I caught a cat nap on the thing. I'm very fortunate to have that superpower of being able to take a nap anywhere.
So at this point, I was thinking, why is she going out to Blake Island? She doesn't have to go to... Of course, you don't know this, but I'm like, you don't have to go to Blake Island. You are taking a huge risk. Don't go to Blake Island. She's going to Blake Island. And I did catch on the spot track, I think I sent it to you, it's this awesome pic of your spot track just in the middle of the water going out there. But... So after that, you completed your Axis of Evil, which, by the way, was Google, Facebook, and Amazon. So you went up and got the Amazon bonus, which is in downtown Seattle. So, but you were at a fairly a good time to go there.
Yeah, and again, I know Seattle, and it's a Saturday during COVID. Amazon has been shut down for last year and a half, so there's just not a lot of people in that part of the city right now. So it was a cakewalk.
Yeah, and then
as long as you knew the streets.
Exactly. Yeah. So then. You had a couple more bonuses you hit. You hit the Seahawks one on the way down, which nicely enough was not at the stadium. It was actually the Seahawks training facility. Which, by the way, there was an annoying and mean bonus of the Cardinals stadium, because I was originally for the football theme going to send people out to the Cardinals stadium. Then I realized there was a game that night, and that's just I can't do that. So
yeah.
So that was
somebody they could lose their rally on that.
Yeah. Well, and that was the only bonus that was time limited. It was only valid. So I put it in the annoying and mean category and limited it to the 3 hours or 2 hours right before kickoff of that game.
Okay.
So anyway, so you then went down and you hit one more combo, which I was so glad to see you hit this one because I loved this combo.
Yes, the so close yet so far combo.
Yeah. So talk about that one. Go ahead.
If you don't know the geography of Seattle area, I mean Puget Sound, but it's basically a long fjord, and the Hood Canal is a exceptionally long 100-something mile fjord that kind of digs and hooks around and has all these arms. And so you put one bonus, actually pretty decently priced one, about an hour ride on really twisty, tiny farm roads.
Yep.
The next bonus you needed to complete the combo was about 1.5 miles away across the water. So you had to backtrack off the peninsula, then go around and down through Tacoma traffic and in order to come back up to claim that bonus.
Yeah. And so that was you finished that one. I mean, it was dark by the time you finished that one.
Yeah, sun had just set when I hit the first of that combo. And I took the liberty of stopping for a semi-celebratory ice cream because I was pretty sure that I had done pretty well. And then I got into a long conversation with somebody about my aux lights being too bright.
No, of course.
I was like, sorry.
So that was one of those combo bonuses where if you imagine the stereotypical rally master sitting around in a dark room laughing maniacally I'm going to send them here, that was the one I was doing that on because they're right there and it's an hour and a half around to go get it. So you finished and you finished fairly. I mean, you weren't right at, you had to finish by midnight and there was no room for error on this rally. It was, if you didn't finish by midnight, you DNF'd. Which I will probably change in the future to have some kind of a penalty window to encourage people to finish a little sooner. But But how'd you think you did when you, I mean, could you see I can't remember if you were in first place at that point or not. Or you must have been.
I very deliberately tried not to look after that first day where I looked at I was like, I can't let that get in my head. But my writing partner this summer, Jo, she was watching it, so she knew. Like she knew at a certain point that like I had it.
Yeah.
So I would call her occasionally, and we chit chat, or she'd say, "Oh, you could make this ferry," or
Yeah.
She kind of helped me with the logistics of that. But I knew that I had done well, but like I didn't want to assume anything until I actually got in. And I came in, I think 10:30-ish p.m. So I had a little bit of extra time to play with. And so of course, as I'm riding up through Lacey, I'm thinking about every bonus that I could have possibly squeezed in at that point. Because I passed up Microsoft. There was another one that I could have gotten in LA, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those where like I'm looking at it. Of course, I know where everyone else is and what their route's going to be like. Like no one was going to catch you at that point. So that was like, it was one of those I had to remind myself, oh yeah, they don't know where everyone else is. They can't see that. Yeah, this is this is what's going on. So, but congratulations, you had a phenomenal ride and really kicked the crap out of it. It was like I said, you did a completely different route that I thought would be the winning route, and you rode the pants off of it. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. Absolutely great time.
And you can see her wonderful trophy up behind her head there that she got from that lights up into rainbow colors, which matches her bike and everything else.
Has pride of place next to my Heart of Texas trophy.
Which that was going to be my next topic. You had quite a little run there of you had a second in the Heart of Texas in the 33-hour event.
Yep, that was another great event and a great time. My first rally for this year, actually only my second rally, actually. Running around taking pictures of churches in Texas on a weekend. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Very cool. So the other thing you did this summer is, so I saw you at the Iron Bike Rally. Yep. Where you were there to watch the start, and you were I can't remember if you were starting or finishing a 4810 ride at that point.
The plan was to start
a
4810 ride on July 4th. So I thought, well, I would like to possibly participate in this little shindig someday. So I should go down and check it out and like meet more people. And I'm very fortunate that I'm able to work remotely from anywhere I can get internet. So I said, why don't I just hang out in Utah for a week or two? So I did that again with my riding partner, Jo, who I was going to do the 4810 with. We just rode around Utah, like checking things out, collecting national park stamps for our national park tours, and then headed back up to towards Walla Walla, Washington to start a 4810. Of course, unfortunately, on the way, while parked in a grocery store parking lot, a sweet, kind-hearted woman in her red pickup truck backed over both of our bikes.
And when you say backed over, you mean backed over.
Yeah, the quote that she said to us was, "I didn't understand why the truck wouldn't go back anymore, so I gave it more gas."
So I can't remember what it was that I had asked. We had a lot of pre-rally crap for the West Coast 66. And so I had asked for like a picture of something, I think it was something funny. And you send this picture of your motorcycle laying on its side in a parking lot. I'm like, what the hell happened? And so did that pretty much end the 4810?
Yeah, I mean, we very quickly realized that like the amount of damage was because we both had insurance, and the insurance would probably cover it. But we really needed to we can't just take off on like a 12,000 mile summer trip. You got to get to the dealer or something to get that insurance paperwork taken care of. So, okay, fine. So we came back to Seattle, got that taken care of, and then realized that the way the logistics worked, we were doing a modified Ron Ayer route. So it's sort of like that weird W caterpillar shape, starting in New England, ending in Washington, because my family's from New England. And I said, the way the timing now works out, why don't we just like mosey on over to New England, hang out there for a while, and then start whenever we feel like starting after that. So on July, that's exactly what we did. Headed across the northern tier. I stopped at Duluth to get my stitch order in. And then see my dad in New England. And then on July 25th, we started our 4810, ending on, 10 days later, whenever that was.
Coincidentally enough, 10 days later. Well, congratulations on finishing that too. That's one that's on my list of things to do still, and I've maybe next summer will be the one for that. So,
well, I think it was Mike Best said to me, I think at Heart of Texas, he's like, you should just do a 48:10, and then that looks really good, and then you'll be able to get in the Iron Butt rally. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what I gotta do. So I went and did it.
Well, hopefully having the prestige of winning the West Coast 66 would be enough to help
in
you
its inaugural year.
In its inaugural, exactly.
Winner.
And hopefully there will be a second one. Knock on wood. We're working on that right now. So
I hope so. I've already booked the time off from work.
Oh, wow. So. Okay, so now I have to.
You have to, Justin.
I have to. Kerri's got the time off. Yeah, well, if you were planning some time off, you might want to plan the week before Memorial Day of 2022. If you had to put some time in that you didn't have to, that you could undo if you needed to. So we're working on it though. So
awesome.
I had a question for you, and this is one you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But Kerri does wonderful ride reports, and I'll link to her webpage for these. So in your North by Northwest, you haven't finished it. The whole thing's not up, obviously. But I'm trying to figure out, were you flower sniffing, running hard, or somewhere in between? Because it seemed like you started out with, I'm going to flower sniff, but I still should probably do well. And then it'll then look like things went downhill from there on the first day at least. So
yeah, I came into that at the end of like 3 weeks, very busy. First West Coast, which for me, 3,000 miles in 3 days, that's a lot of miles for me. I'm still working up to that kind of miles, but it's fine. But then we went into review period at work, which is always stressful. And then I did a week at Disneyland, and then of course North by Northwest starts, and I just didn't have a lot of gas in the tank. So I said, I opened up the bonuses. I said, you know what, like there's a southern loop through California and Nevada, but I just did that. I do not want to see any more sagebrush. I'm done. I am done with that. So I took an early route, and I knew that it wasn't going to be a podium finish. And then it was raining and dark, and I was miserable, and I had, because you and I talked about iPhones and water problems, that happened to me. My phone wouldn't charge for like 6 or 7 hours.
It's the plug. The phone is fine. It's the plug.
I'm upgrading to a wireless charger. That's all there is to it. But
I actually just put the quad lock one on my bike, and it worked wonderfully for the North by Northwest. So yeah.
I actually had ordered that whole setup, but it arrived the day after I left.
Nice.
So, what you can do. So I was kind of flower sniffing on that first day, but I woke up. I did a 5-hour break in Spokane, Washington, and got up, and then I was like, I can't win on this route, but I sure can ride the pants off what's left.
Yeah.
And I shifted right back into competitive mode and just tried to like crush what I could of the rest of that of that route.
Very cool. Well, what are you mentioned you're interested in doing the Iron Butt Rally. Are you doing the LDX this next summer?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Very cool. I am not planning on doing that rally, but I am hoping to be there for the start. So I will.
Very cool.
I will wave.
Cool. It's practically next door, right?
Practically. Well, we have been talking for almost 45 minutes here. So let's transition over into the famous long distance dozen. The same questions we ask everyone. As someone at North by Northwest told me, "Oh, you mean that rally where you ask the same questions to everyone?" I'm like, "Yeah, that guy's lazy." I'm like, "Yes, he is." So anyway, let's start into it. What was your first motorcycle and why?
Let me ask a clarifying question. First, real motorcycle?
Both, because I want to know what the difference is.
I think I have 3 first motorcycles.
Okay.
I had my first motorcycle ride when I was 8 or 9. A bunch of the kids had a dirt bike. Of course, like I was the last one who got to ride it. And I thought, I'm going to be it's like a little 150cc, whatever, I'm going to be the cool kid. I figured out how to shift and everything. And I like raced down, turned around, came back down. I'm going to do it slide out, skid out, just like on our BMX bikes. Nobody told me there are 2 brakes on a motorcycle. So I locked up that front tire. Why me at 10 years old was wearing a helmet, I'll never know, but thank goodness. I have a very distinct memory. One of my best friend's mom was a nurse, and I just remember like standing in her kitchen, just crying, like, "Don't tell my mom!" while she's picking gravel out of my thigh because I was wearing shorts. So that was kind of my first motorcycle ride. I didn't really do motorcycles for a while, and then I'm a software engineer by day, and I was talking to my dad, who's really into motorcycles, but I didn't really know it at the time because motorcycles were a verboten topic in my family.
Oh.
I said, I need a hobby. I need something that isn't like sitting at a screen or playing video games. What should I do? And he said, well, why don't you get like an old two-stroke moped or something and fix it up and, you can work with your hands and whatnot. Well, that was it. That was 10 or 12 years ago. So I started in the springtime buying Vespa scooters, vintage ones, real simple, easy to fix.
Yeah.
The parts are still available. They're great. Fix them up, ride the pants off them, sell them in the winter.
Yeah. Very cool.
The problem is in Seattle, if you want to go anywhere interesting, you got to go over a bridge at some point. Yeah. And they're all highway bridges. So I realized very quickly, I need to get a bigger machine.
You need to go more than 35 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Downhill.
So 2017, I went and did my MSF, and next 2 days later, went and got a 2017 V-Strom 650.
Nice.
My first bike.
That was actually I'd really considered that the V-Strom as my first bike too, but it's so
great.
Yeah,
such a great bike. Yeah.
All right, so why did you pick the V-Strom? Let's go with that. That's the second part of that question.
So I had done a little bit of road rally riding as a navigator in cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very interested in maps. I love maps. I've done a lot of professional work with maps, and I've always been fascinated by like, what's that dot? Like there's a dot on the map there that has a town name next to it. What's there?
Yeah.
And so I knew that I kind of wanted to be in that sort of adventure bike space, not just like the cruiser or the touring per se, but like I really wanted to go to Alaska and do the whole Alaska ride. I had a friend who'd gone up to not Tuck, whatever the town used to be, Inuvik,
right.
The northernmost in Canada. And he's like, oh yeah, it's like 500 kilometers of dirt. And I was like, okay, so I need this kind of bike. And that's kind of how I ended up on that bike, because it was one that he had.
Yeah.
And I took that one up to Alaska and had a great time on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Where was your first overnight ride?
My first overnight ride was about a month after I got the bike. I rode over Washington State 20 to Winthrop, Washington, which, if you don't know it, is kind of a tourist trap. It looks like an old kind of western miney town. They've got like the whole wooden sidewalks and post rails everywhere and everything. But no, I rode over there overnight and stayed in the hiker hostel. I used to be a hiker, so I always look for hostels of that sort. And that was that was my first overnight ride. And I got home in one piece, and I didn't die, and said, oh, well, that means I could surely go to Colorado then. And so like a week later, I lit out for Colorado.
Nice.
This is like my first month of owning a bike.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, just do it.
Incidentally, Highway 20 was a bonus on the West Coast 66, or a combo bonus, and also a phenomenal ride too. It's one of some of those beautiful scenery. It's not the road itself isn't anything special, but there's some cool switchbacks. But yeah, it's the scenery is just amazing.
There's just something about it where it really is the epitome of the best of Washington State in a lot of ways, where you start at sea level on the west side, and you go through that high alpine wilderness, and then come back down in that dry eastern central Washington of the Okanagan.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
I never thought about it that way, that is really like, that is Washington. Like if you wanted to get all parts of Washington, that road would get it for you, with maybe the exception of like the Palouse area. It doesn't really get that. But
I mean, you could even like extend it, because Highway 20 actually goes out into the islands.
Yeah.
So if you really wanted to make like a really nice like Washington tour, you could do like an end to end of Highway 20. And it would just be amazing. But it's also a road that's only open like 4 or 5 months out of the year because of avalanches. So you got to hit it.
Once you ride it, you'll see why it's closed in the winter. All right, question number 3. We've kind of covered this, but what is your day job?
I am a software engineer.
What kind of what kind of stuff? I'm just curious. I mean, if you don't want to get into details about it, but
no, I work for a company called GitLab, and what we build are called DevOps tools, and it's basically tools that help other software engineers build whatever the heck they're building.
Nice.
So akin to the if you're in a gold rush, sell shovels. Like that's kind of my niche.
That's awesome.
But I spent a number of years, like I said, working with mapping and video. Actually, I worked for an action sports company that made a competitor to the GoPro, based here in Seattle.
Okay.
So I've had a whole ton of different stuff.
Cool. All right, question number 4. What is your favorite non-motorcycling hobby? Is it Vespa repair?
I actually am a bit of a Diz nerd.
Okay.
I discovered a really good friend of mine, and invited me to go to Disney with her right before October, November of 2019, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I thought, oh, I'll go. Like, it'll be fun, sure. In kind of a sarcastic tone of voice. And I got down there and I was utterly charmed by Disney. And so I've kind of fallen into a bit of a Disney trap the last couple of years, where I'm doing some Disney cosplay.
Oh, wow.
Pins from Disney and
okay, so there are a number. I know there are a number of people who listen to this podcast who work for Disney and work for Disneyland specifically. Call Kerri and help Kerri get inexpensive tickets to Disneyland. That would be really swell.
Too late. I already have an annual pass.
Okay, well. All right, question 5. What is your favorite road?
It used to be Highway 20.
Yeah.
In Washington State. At this point, like I've done around, I did the math. I think I've done about 135,000 miles in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And yeah, I've been going everywhere because my job is portable. So I'm not restricted by, and I don't have family, I don't have kids, I don't have pets. I don't even have houseplants, Justin. Like, I can just go. So I've taken advantage of that before they figure it out and like fire me. What the heck is she doing? So it used to be Highway 20. I love the Cassiar up in Upper British Columbia on your way up to Alaska. Okay. It's amazing. It's 500 miles of Highway 20.
Wow.
It's there are 3 gas stops on 500 miles. Like wow. That kind of remote. But I think that right now my favorite road has to be the road that gets you from Grand Junction, Colorado, through Gateway, Colorado, down to the ghost town of Uravan. And I discovered this last year on North by Northwest rally. This was Gary had put a bonus down there. Uravan used to be this uranium mining town that, of course, uranium, we really shouldn't be mining that. And so they bulldozed down the town after 50 years of digging this stuff up. And it's just a bunch of rocks that are fenced off with signs that say, do not cross this line, no matter what you do. But the road in is this amazing, amazing canyon. You're riding along this river, tight canyon walls, and it's that beautiful sandstone formations that you will often see with cliff dwelling peoples.
Like Anasazi type.
Yes. Yeah. And there are actual habitations there and the hieroglyphs and everything that are in the walls. If you stop at any of the locations things, but it's just beautiful, twisty, windy canyon walls, little tiny farms. Like anytime there's a flat bit beside the road, there's cattle there grazing. It's a wonderful, wonderful 2-hour in and out. Yeah. All
right. Let's see here. What question are we on? Question 6. What is your least favorite road? I-5?
I-5. I-5.
Which part of I-5 would be your...
Oh, there's so many to choose from.
There really is.
Central Oregon, it's just long and flat and 2 lanes and there's no other road, so everybody takes it.
Yeah.
Which is actually the same with the other least favorite part of that road, which is through the valley in California, where it's 2 lanes, lots of traffic.
I was between Olympia and Tacoma, where there's really no other way to go, and if a train happens to crash through onto the freeway, it causes a problem.
JVLM base. Yeah. It's if for folks that don't know, the highway goes right at the end of the Air Force runway. And so more than once I have been riding only to have a C-130 landing or taking off over my head. Yeah. And you can smell the gas fumes in your helmet and you're like, that was close.
Yeah. Yeah, seeing a C-17 coming down at you. That'll get your attention real quick. Yeah. All right, question 7. What do you use as your planning software? Basecamp, Streets Trip? Well, I'm going to take Streets Trips out of here because no one has used Streets and Trips for the last 25 years, I think. So Basecamp, Google,
People still do,
or Paper Maps?
I do a lot of it in Basecamp, at least for the planning. And the reason why is I can't find another tool that does the itinerary the way that I want it to. Just being able to like put together a route and have it say like, here's the places I'm going to be visiting.
And what time?
I'm stopping for 5 minutes at each or whatever. This is the time. And then I can print that or screenshot it or whatever. And then I know I have like built-in time gates to check my progress. I just haven't found anyone. I know Mike Brook did he just used Google this summer, and I kind of played around with the way that he was doing it. And I was like, this is too much fiddling with the tool instead of like actually planning the route for me. That said, I double check everything now point to point against Google as when I'm riding. So I'm running a Zumo XT, and it has just become the sort of like, it's the information gathering spot. Like it kind of tells me, but it's really Google is what's confirming my route. One thing too many planning mishaps.
One thing I found on North by Northwest, because I used Waze forever, and after Waze made me a little angry this last summer, I was like, I'm going to try using Google for North by Northwest pretty much exclusively, which worked really well. And the thing I really like about Google is that it will help you once you get off the bike to find if they've put the waypoint on top of the grave marker, it will point you show you a map of where that grave marker is. The one thing it will do as well is it will be very happy to send you down a 20-mile dirt road and not tell you that it's a dirt road. And as far as I can tell, there is no setting to tell it, do not route me down dirt roads if there's another alternative available. So that was,
Yeah, there's no real perfect tool, and I think that we've seen this sort of flame coming up. There's a long thread around the Zumo and the review of it on the forums. There is no perfect tool, and so like you have to use a variety of tools to kind of like all overlap because they'll make up for the deficiencies of the other ones.
Yeah.
But again, like having worked professionally with mapping software and like my day job is literally dealing, we call them acyclic directed graphs, but it's rally planning, but for code. It makes sense if you know what I do. So it's like, it's very natural to kind of like know, I kind of have an intuitive sense of what these tools are doing under the hood and why some of them are better than others. And so where their strengths and weaknesses are. So it lets me compare and contrast in kind of an informed way.
Yeah. All right, question number 8. If you get a new motorcycle tomorrow, what's the first Farkle you're going to put on it?
Oh, man. Honestly, probably better air protection. I'm a 6-foot-tall Amazon, and like bikes are not made for me. I mean, I can flat foot almost every bike on the market. I can flat foot an Africa Twin, but I can't. My head is always sticking out, and that distracts me to the point of that it just feels unsafe. And so just better wind protection to get my head, create that bubble. So I have played around with just about every solution for buffeting and whatnot, and figured out something that works for me on every bike. But no, it seems like every bike, that's the first thing I've got to do.
I solved that problem by buying a Goldwing.
I'm resisting that. Like Goldwings are in my future, I know it, but I'm holding back on that.
It's one of those things like once you, I don't know. For me, I mean, I had an R12, I had a regular GS, and then I rode the FJR. I'm like, oh my god, it's just like there's so much protection from the wind. And then I rode a Goldwing. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much protection from the wind, and So I that is one of my biggest pet peeves too, is being out in the wind all the time and not having the ability to get out of the wind and that buffeting and
I think the advice that we always give people when they come in, they're like, I'm doing my first saddle sore. Like, what advice do you have for me? And it's always like, find out what hurts and then stop it from hurting. Which awesome. Is great advice for life, really. Yeah. But I noticed that for a long time I had like a kind of a cruddy helmet. And I was like, my neck is getting really sore. It's like, oh, it's because I'm tensing from all the noise. Like, I got a good helmet, wear earplugs. Okay, what's the next thing? Like all those little things that are fatiguing me. And yeah, wind buffeting, you don't realize it, but like it gets to you.
That's the thing I like is the ability to move the windshield, which I couldn't do on the GS. But being able to say, you know what, I'm a little hot. Put that windshield down and open up everything, like, and then put it back up and be right back in the bubble again. So
I'm so jealous. The new Tiger 1200 that's coming out has electric windscreen. I'm like, I might have to take a look at that.
Well, see, you could have the GS and a Goldwing, and
we haven't got to the question about like what bikes I have.
Well, that is the next question. Actually, what is your current bikes and why? So we know about the GSA.
Yes, I've got a 2019 1250 GSA. I also have a Tiger 800 and a KLR 650.
Nice. What year of KLR 650?
2006.
Okay, so pre-new KLR 650.
Well, I mean, on paper it's new.
Pre-2008.
It's seen some days. Yeah.
Is it gray and blue, or excuse me, gray and red, or is it black in that year?
I think it's the gray and red one.
Okay.
And I say think because it had obviously, this poor bike has been mistreated, and it had obviously sat outside at some point because it's faded from a lovely red to a, let's say, raspberry pink color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into my love of KLR 650s, but you just got to love any bike that you fix by putting a screwdriver in the tailpipe and hitting it with a hammer. That's how you solve a problem. Anyway, so... Well, cool. Well, so you can have the Goldwing and have the complete spectrum of motorcycles.
Well, yes, except
I'm not a Goldwing salesman, believe it or not.
I'm only joking about like resisting the Goldwing. I think they're amazing bikes, and like I was looking at yours, and every time I see one, I'm just like, my goodness, like it's so well designed and like looks comfortable and
it's got CarPlay.
I live in a condo building in Seattle, like practically downtown Seattle. So like I've got 2 parking spots, and so I'm kind of limited.
So one is filled up with motorcycles.
Yeah, so every month or two, like the HOA leaves me a note or sends me an email. And they're like, could you kind of tidy up, And I'm like, because I got like charging cables and trickle chargers and like top boxes, spare tires leaning against the wall. Yeah.
All right. So question number 10: who made your seat?
Who made my seat? On the GSA, I've got a Russell Daylong.
Yeah.
And on my Tiger, I've got one from Rich. Rich is here in Puget Sound area.
That GSA, well, I don't know if they made it better when they made it the 1250, but when it was the 1200, that was a terrible seat. I mean, just terrible.
Somewhere over in Berlin, there's like this German guy, and it fits his butt perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And he's the seat tester. And he's like, oh, they're great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that is a terrible, terrible seat. So I'm glad you're in something comfortable.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 11. What is your favorite or the most interesting location you have visited on your motorcycle?
I knew this question was coming up, and I'm like, man, I have a hard time with superlatives, like favorite anything.
Yeah. This is a lot of superlatives in this list.
It's tough. I could say Uravan, that amazing uranium ghost town, just because of the ride in. The Clown Motel, West Coast 66 was fabulous. That was great.
Which is terrifying, the pictures you send, by the way.
It was amazing. I had such a great time. I think, though, the one that's kind of the best story for me, and I'll tell it real quick, is in Heart of Texas Rally, we were visiting churches. And so a lot of them were these older historical churches. There was one that was like west of Fredericksburg, out in hill country somewhere, and it had been raining on and off all day. I was ahead of the huge storm that had taken out a lot of people, but it's still raining, and I'm on a GSA, so no problem. I've been rawhide. I can deal with a little Texas clay. Well, no, I cannot deal with Texas clay, apparently. And boom, the bike goes down. And it took me 35 minutes to get that bike back up.
Oh, wow.
Partially, it was the first time I'd ever dropped it, so I wasn't really sure about it. It's a heavy bike, but also it's raining. I'm tired. Texas clay, and the bike is pointed the wrong way. It's pointed downhill. So by the time I get it up, I'm exhausted. I'm like, I'm just holding it up. And I'm like, I like try to put the kickstand down, the bike kind of slips, and I'm like, oh geez, like, I slip, and it's like, this is bad. What do I do now?
Yeah.
And I'm considering my options when up comes a pickup truck with Max Jordan driving it. And Max Jordan is the nicest man on the planet. Texas hospitality, right? He's this older retired gentleman in his red pickup truck. Sees a lady in trouble. He helps me park the bike, and then he wants to know what I'm doing. And so I'm like, well, scavenger hunt, rally, collecting churches. He's like, well, you can't see the church from here. You got to get some better pictures by the church. So we hop in his truck. I can't say no, right?
Yeah.
Like, he helped me with the bike, even though the clock is running, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so okay, whatever. I hop in he's a trustee of the church. And so he like brings me in, he shows me the whole church of the inside. I take a picture of the stained glass.
Oh, wow.
He tells me the whole history of it. And then he takes me on this back road tour for like 10 miles. It's like where the church used to be and the old one-room schoolhouse that is actually still there, like out in the middle of nowhere on these dirt roads. Absolutely fabulous. It was a great experience. It cost me 45 minutes, but that was an investment, I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I do a lot of this long distance touring where I'm not under the pressure of clock or trying to get a cert or something. And then, when I'm just flower sniffing, that's the stuff I love, like back roads and meeting people in small towns and seeing stuff like that. So in the middle of the rally, like that was a really nice reset to have.
It's funny how I have that, like, I just want to do some rides where I just like get to ride somewhere and I don't have to be somewhere at a certain time. Of course, I'm always thinking this while I'm on a rally and like, go, 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 go. So.
Yeah.
Well, question 12, how do you pass the time? Other than taking tours through the Texas countryside with Max Jordan, how do you pass the time on long rides?
I used to do podcasts, but the GSA is a little bit louder than my Tiger. So I haven't been able to like do that. So I'm avoiding spending for like very expensive in-ear monitors and things like that. So I've actually switched over. For some reason, the Senna plays podcasts and any audio from my phone, like music or whatnot, at a pretty low volume.
Yeah.
But the built-in FM radio is really loud.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's just the way it is. So I listen to a lot of local FM radio.
Oh, interesting.
Which means that I now have opinions on country music. Like I would never like. I just don't have a lot of exposure to country music. It's not that I don't like it or I look down on it in any way, shape, or form. But like, I grew up in the East Coast and I live in Seattle. Like, not country. There's
a lot of people who listen to country music in Seattle, though.
Well, yeah, but you got to work. Like, you're not just like walking down the street and you don't randomly hear country music coming out of a bar or something like you do in, say, Texas. So yeah, like I kind of listen to a lot of local FM radio, which I just have really come to absolutely love. Not necessarily country music per se. I do have opinions on it now.
But just the local flair.
Exactly. And it's especially great. A few years ago, the FCC did some loosening of the regulations around who can start a radio station. And that's led to this explosion of a lot of like really low wattage, very small regional radio stations. So, for example, on North by Northwest, I went through the Warm Springs Indian Reservation, and they've got a local radio station. And so I managed to find it on my Senna, and I listened to it for like an hour. And it was this really cool program on Native American affairs and how they're being impacted by COVID. And, it's like, what? Or I could have listened to the same like 3 playlists I have on Spotify. I listened to like 800 times this summer. But no, I got kind of a nice little dose of like the local. Yeah. And so that kind of helps me pass the time. Lets my ADHD kind of fixate on something besides, wool gathering. And also I still get to sort of satisfy that sort of like flower sniffing instinct. Yeah. Right? Because I'm getting a little taste as I go along.
Very cool. And everyone who complains about that they can't hear this podcast on their Senna headsets, listen to what Kerri just said. Like, I can't help poor audio quality when it's coming out of a Senna headset.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah. I'm very sensitive to protecting what's left of my hearing. I blew an eardrum out at a James Taylor concert years ago, and I'm very aware that like what long-term damage is going to do if I keep it going. So I'm earplugs all the time and good helmets. I don't need to be like cranking the volume up to like blast, to kind of negate that. So
well, and earplugs with Senna, I find work better than a Senna without earplugs. Like it sounds much better to me if I'm wearing earplugs than if I'm not. So.
Yeah, there's just something about the foam, especially the foam earplugs for me. They just cut out just the right set of frequencies to like make that actually audible.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Kerri, you have completed the LD dozen and
finished.
You have finished.
Yes, I'm a finisher.
Yeah, I should get a little plaque. Finisher, LD dozen. Anything else you want to talk about before I let you go?
No, I think I was going to mention just the ride reports that I do. I have a really great time writing them up. I write them for myself just so I don't forget, because I've done a lot of these trips, and then I'm like, hey, I was in Alaska at some point. Why didn't I write more about that? So I started to do that, and people seem to like them. So I'm gonna keep doing them.
They're very entertaining, and I'll put a link down in the description of this podcast. But thank you for coming on Long Riders Radio, and we'll see you out on the road.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See you out there.
Well, if you'd like to get in contact with me, the best way to do it is to head over to our website, www.longridersradio.com. And another big thank you to the folks over at DiscountRamps.com for their support on this episode. DiscountRamps.com offers a huge selection of power sports products for your ATV, UTV, motorcycle, and more. Long Riders Radio listeners can save 15% on their order by using coupon code LONG, that's LONG, at DiscountRamps.com. And a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, including Avraham Azrieli, Matt Hube, Daniel Parks, Lonnie Stevens, Don Rinker, as well as everyone else who helps make this show possible by their contributions. Thank you very much. I couldn't do it without you. And as always, we need to thank this show's founder, Mr. Michael Cox. I was talking to Mike the other day, and I asked him, hey, Mike, when you first moved to Oklahoma City, what was your first reaction? And he said...
And so I just show up, and I'm like, wait, this is a prison.
Ride safe, everyone.